Am I live? It says I'm live. I'm live. Hey, Bob Cooney here with another edition of the Being Virtual Show. And we have one of the rare repeating guests that that I've had, and we're going to bring him in. Hold on, I'm removing this from my Facebook group because that didn't work, I guess, whatever. And here he is. Let's see, how do we get him up there? Brent Bushnell, one of my favorite humans.
How are you, sir?
I am doing. Wait, Sawadee Ka. I'm in Thailand. I'm good.
Cool. That's so great. I when I was so shocked learning a little bit about Thai that you the gender is embedded in the end of the word. Sawadee Krap versus Sawadee Ka is different if you are a man or a woman, and the idea that
I said Ka. I did it wrong. Yeah.
But I was just
You're the only person I know that would have busted me for that, so thank you.
But the novel, great to see you, man.
It is. It's good to see you too, dude. And it's been a while since we caught up, and you know, and I know you track. You know, not only are you living this crazy location-based entertainment journey, but you know, you're tracking all the technology, and you're out there talking about what's going on, and so I really always look forward to getting your take on things that are happening. And so I appreciate you taking the time because I know you've got to be really super busy.
Oh man, it's so great to get a moment to reconnect with you, and you know, it's a fun time, weird time in the world. So you know, let's dig into it.
Let's dig into it. So for those of you that don't know, give us, you know, I know you've done this a million times, but give us the shortest bio you've ever given.
I'm a big nerd. Okay, no, longer than that. You know, I love, you know, I grew up with sort of 1 foot in engineering, 1 foot in entrepreneurship. I really love those things a lot, both of them. And you know, started Bit Circus with my co-founder Eric Gradman years ago, and we started building interactive games and you know, big spectacle stunts, and you know, ran our own carnival, and then opened up what we call micro amusement parks. And you know, we're moving into now a whole new phase of you know, entertainment and experimentation, and so it's been a over a decade now of, you know, 150 plus attractions and all sorts of different, you know, fun spectacle stunts and events, and you know, I'm just gonna keep trying more stuff.
Yeah, like you guys have been some of the most experimentative. I don't know what I just made up a word. That people in this industry that I've seen, and maybe some of the people I know, like you guys just throw stuff against the wall and see what sticks, what blows up, literally. And so, you know, the first time I think we reconnected, you were doing, you did a thing at UCLA, and you kind of pitched this it was for entrepreneurship to a bunch of students, and you kind of pitched this idea of, if we built this, you know, this carnival and we sold tickets, would you come? And then you did a Kickstarter, and then you did this big thing in San Francisco and Long Beach that was this massive thing, and then you decided, to kind of to my surprise, because we've talked about this in previous shows, which is, I'm just saying this for context for people.
Yeah.
You know, you were thinking about doing like the true carny thing where you put things on trains and move them around the country and set up this like roving high tech circus. And then you pivoted off of that, which I think we've talked about was mostly for logistical and cost reasons. Like it was kind of a crazy expensive idea to do that, right?
Yeah, you know, a couple of things really smacked us in the face, you know, is when we were doing the carnival, we were setting up somewhere between 90 and 120,000 square feet of stuff for basically a weekend. You know, we would start it on Wednesday with like an anti-gala premium event, you know, you know, black tie thing, into student preview days, and then open to the public. So it was like absolutely massive, 5,000 people a day, but just a handful of days. And the thing that really we just got beaten into us was how much abuse your gear takes. And it's not just the abuse of the people going through it. It's the abuse of breaking it down and putting it back to, you know, and putting it on a truck. And when you put it on a truck, it breaks a little bit. And then you get it off the truck and it breaks a little bit. And the people who packed it up, they sort of did it wrong, you know? And so all of that abuse really, I mean, you look at museum exhibits, they're hundreds of dollars a square foot to build because they're built to travel, and they need to
Yeah.
be able to take the equivalent of a freaking full-blown baseball bat repeatedly. And Carney stuff needs to do that too. And a lot of our
Yeah.
stuff is not ready for that. And we didn't have the cash to even do that at the time. And not for nothing, the things, the bigger business is the permanent one. The traveling one has to be dark when you're traveling. It has to move away from the town and go to a different town to find new people that are fresh, that haven't seen it before. And where we ultimately landed was, man, if we could solve this problem and solve it in one city and have it work with repeat visitation. And that's the key, right? So much entertainment is there for the one-off user. And that there's like 5 cities in America you can do that, Las Vegas and New York and whatever. But if you can get the repeat visitation, that's a completely different organism. And movie theaters were the last ones that did that really well, at thousands of locations for 100 years. That's $1 trillion freaking home run, like but that, I think that movie theater
and even that comes to an end, it seems. So maybe we'll touch on that.
But hey, if we could innovate 100-year run, I'll take it.
I'd consider that a success.
Yeah.
So you opened in LA, which is got to be one of the toughest entertainment markets to do anything, right? There's so much competition, but it's a massive market. But making noise is difficult. You guys did a great job with PR and making noise and getting known in probably the toughest media market in the world. And so what were some of the lessons that you learned from opening, and then we'll get into the repeat visitation thing, and we'll talk. Hopefully, we'll unpack some of your learnings there, because I imagine you've analyzed all of this shit to death.
Oh my God, man. Yeah. Marketing is one of those things where there's no one right answer, right? There's no one plan. You are trying to do lots of different things. You're trying to throw lots of things against the wall to make it work. Everybody in location based will talk about the sort of flywheel from, events to, from individuals to events. And you really do. That is a powerful flywheel of you get somebody who comes and gives you a trial, and then they came in one way, right? They either came in with their friends because somebody said, hey, you should do this, or they came in from their, corporate party because their HR person found you. But once they're there, then they're like, oh, I'm going to come back in a different context. I'm going to bring my family back. I'm going to come back. I came with my family, and now this would be a great place for our holiday party. And so that flywheel can just be critical. And really, the event side of that's amazing. That you make that one deal with the HR manager or whatnot, and then all of a sudden they're going to go out and market to your audience. So that's incredible. The other thing on marketing is, you can substitute so much with creativity, and it's hard as hell because creativity takes time, and it takes iterating and experimentation. One thing I really love,
courage
and courage. Yeah, that's true. And it also, I think sometimes you get these ideas that are sticky, that just that kind of can't die. They sort of won't go away. And we got this with this one. We ended up pre-pinning. We painted a ginormous Google pin on the roof and 20-foot letters that said circus. And so, and then waited a freaking year for Google to update their maps. But by the time they did it, we'd pre-pinned everybody's Google Maps, And so for donated paint, volunteer effort, the incredible efforts of Grant Delgatti, this awesome polymath, we did that thing in a day, and it ended up winning a Clio Award and got crazy coverage and whatnot. And so that was like some of the best marketing we could have done, and it was effectively free, an opportunity cost. But you can't, there's only it's hard to do those and have them always work. You sort of need a mix of the guerrilla and the mainstay and the whatnot.
And so I want to talk about two things. There's two things came up as you were talking about that. One was the positioning of, calling this a micro amusement park. So I do a lot of work on go-to-market strategy and helping companies position, and creating a category of one is one of the strategies that, like, I try to employ, rather than going into this place where you get in a competitive mindset and then you're beating up the competition, or you're competing on price and you have margin erosion. creating your own category is one of the key strategies to being successful.
Mm.
And you did that with this micro amusement park concept. And how did that come about, and how did that play out from your perspective?
Wow, great question. And I got to say, Bob, it was a blessing and a curse. So you're right. The new category gets you PR. It's exciting. This is your own thing. You get to design it and define it. And so all of that is really special and very powerful right out of the gates. We wanted to differentiate from other things out there. And, we had no redemption, right? No prizing. And that was a big departure from things in
Mm,
the broad category that we're in. And so we did really want to sort of set people's expectation. Hey, this can be different. And then in arriving at the term, people know what a microbrewery is. Maybe they would sort of make the projection to a micro amusement park. The downside is you lose people's habits and their expectations, right? When you go to a restaurant, if it's a fine dining restaurant, you know what's going to happen. If it's a fast food restaurant, you know what's going to happen, right? You're going to approach the counter, you're going to buy. If it's the fine dining, you're going to go to the host, they're going to take you to the table, you're going to get a menu, and then they'll come for drinks once, and then they'll come for food, right? All of that is just baked into your awareness of the experience. And how do people visit a micro amusement park? Turns out they don't know. And you know what? We didn't know for a while, And so we had to sort of educate people on what it even meant to come. Do you have to book in advance, or do you book when you get there? Every one of those is a question somebody's going to have. And those, that unknown, maybe we're losing business, maybe we've got more staff answering questions. We had to do a whole sort of education when people arrived at the front of the building. So, I think that was the downside of setting up your own stuff, is you just sort of have to do a lot of educating, a lot of retraining. When I think about when we first, we made escape rooms sort of years, before escape rooms was really an established term. And we had to describe in a paragraph what we had built. It's a physical location. You come and you do it with your friends. You come at a certain time, and think about all your expectations that you now have baked into your awareness of what an escape room is. We sort of needed to educate people on this as a style of entertainment.
yeah.
And so that's an interesting one.
And if you did, so looking back on it, if you had a chance to do that piece over again, would you have changed what you called it?
So I think I would have done it again. I mean, now that we know more, we were always trying to figure out, do we market the park or do we market attractions at the park? Are we marketing 2-Bit Circus, or are we marketing the raft, which you can do at 2-Bit Circus along with 300 other things? And I think we really did a lot of hand wringing around that, which we probably didn't need to do, and I wouldn't do again. We should, and where we landed is, I think, the right one, which was first just market the freaking place. People don't know about that at all. Educate them on that, and then you can later say, hey, there's things at the place, and those changed. And just like a big amusement park might add a new roller coaster, we could give people reasons to come back, which was part of the thinking around things at the place, right? You setting people's expectation. This is going to be different. This is going to change, because we really, for us, the local customer is the goal, continues to be the goal. That local customer is something that we could put in every town in America.
Yeah, yeah. And so the other question I want to ask you, this was in the news this week, and so American Airlines just did their earnings release. Might be feel like a bit of a non sequitur, but I'll bring it home for you quickly. And corporate bookings for them fell dramatically. And apparently, coming out of the pandemic, there was a lot of, nobody was traveling for business anymore. Everybody was doing Zoom calls and virtual events. And they brought in a chief revenue officer who decided that they were going to change up their channel and distribution strategy, and they were going to cut commissions with corporate booking agents and give people incentives. So they just basically said, we're going to change the way we do business and the way we sell our business product. And the CEO came out and said, yeah, that was a huge failure. We're going to go back and we're going to try to rebuild those relationships. Now that everybody's traveling again and business travel is up, businesses have gone back through the channels they were. And there's corporate booking travel agents that book a lot of that. And they basically said, screw you, American, we're going to take our business to your competition. And the CEO basically came out and said, yep, we screwed up. I'm sorry. And we're firing that guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not what they said. He's leaving, whatever, right? And so they took this guy who they brought in who tried to innovate a new way to do business during a really challenging time for an industry, which we've all gone through in our industry, right? Total shutdown.
Mhm.
And it didn't work, and they threw this guy under the bus, under the plane on the runway. And 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 the message that that sends to your organization is don't try things because if
Mhm.
they fail, you're
Mhm.
out of here. And it
Mhm.
undermines innovation in your organization. And so, and I was like, oh, that's why American Airlines will always suck, is because they don't, there's no safety in innovation. And I talked to you about courage. I mentioned the word courage when it talks about trying things. And as 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 one of the companies that I consider, you're pure, almost too much innovation. Like you take the thing almost to the other end, and like you don't like if it works, we're not going to try it. We're just going to try all of this crazy shit.
Uh,
How do you support that from a cultural standpoint to give people, you know, the courage to take risks and to know that they if they fail, how is that going to play out in your organization?
yeah, it is a really good question. I think we are not a mature enough company to have a decade long answer for that yet. Like the kind of persisting the kind of persistence that would sow in a large organization like American Airlines. We don't have the muscle memory in our staff nearly as badly. So I think we have a much easier time, frankly, because we are so few in comparison. Uh, but I do think that, I love this book, got to me, called Zone to Win. And he breaks down really the sort of, there's the flywheel of your business, the sort of core operating machine, and then you've got your innovation, and you've got something that you're maybe staging for transition into your major machine, into your flywheel machine. But that there's, these really distinct phases, and I forget the term that NASA uses, but as projects sort of move forward in big chunks, they graduate through to a next level, from being just an idea on a napkin to a working prototype to something that's got an actual customer in front of it. Those things take so long, and also for us, we'll have, when you take a long enough view of it, you're not building this thing right now. You're pitching it to brands, and they said no, and so you put it back on the shelf, and then you pitch it again a year later, and it gets a little better, and now it's got 2 more renderings, and it's a little further along. And so I think there's a long-term view, which, like, hey, we're experimenting here, and this thing, we either are going to sell it, or get a buying customer for it, and then it's going to move forward to the next phase, or we're not, and it's really sitting here. And so we kind of are, we've had a little bit of that agency mindset, even with our own internal stuff around sort of how things get greenlit, and the level of finish that they need to even just get one more step down the line, right? It's going from an idea to a playable prototype, and
Yeah,
maybe that's as far as it's going to get right now.
yeah.
So I feel like I didn't nail that answer, but hopefully that's helpful a little bit.
Well, what happens? So, what happens when somebody comes to you with a crazy idea and you say okay, and then it doesn't work?
I mean, dude, that I feel like I've gone through that so many times. Like, that is part of it. And what can we learn from this? The postmortem, the what are we gonna, if it's on me if I let it be too negative to all of that. Ultimately, I'm the final decision
Hmm.
maker. Like, and the final person who is responsible for having even said yes in the first place. And so I think I feel really responsible. And then, depending on the person, figure out, maybe they're the right person in the wrong thing, or go from there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. So let's talk. So by the way, this is a strict no COVID zone. We don't go back to COVID. Like, we don't talk about that shit. But,
Fair enough.
um, and not but um, you had, and so we're not gonna. I don't. I'm just gonna ask a quick question, and we can move off it really quickly. To maintain my own credibility, if anything. So Dallas. So you have your LA. You had your LA location.
Yep.
You had to shut down. You came back during that, going into the pandemic. You opened Dallas, or you were, and I know that you were severely underfunded with that.
Yeah,
Any lessons from Dallas that you want to share?
we scaled too early.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
and really
Thank you.
we were basically, we did not understand the product well enough. We didn't understand what were the major flywheels yet, and we didn't, you know the pandemic has a really long arm. We were closed for 18 months and under restriction for 12, and our attempts to recover from that and recover from all the debts associated with that lasted through, into this beginning of this year.
Yeah. And so do you see, because I see a lot of companies that get caught up in scaling too fast. Like they still haven't figured out what you call the flywheel, but really, why is that first location successful? And oftentimes we never find out. I talk about LaserStorm, and my first location at LaserStorm was at a place called Funplex in Denver. And we looked at all the things we could have done better to make it more successful. And we never looked at the things that actually made it successful in the first place. And so we got to our next location and our next one and our next one. We never actually replicated the success of the first one. And I do believe some of that has to do with the energy and the magic and the unicorn blood that goes in from the founders in that first location, of
Mhm.
just birthing it and giving it life. That when you start taking your eye off of that and you focus on from running to scaling, your energy is put in a different area. And I'm curious your thoughts on that, having now gone through what you've gone through.
Yeah, it is a with LaserStorm. Did you guys build all your own gear too, software and everything? You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And
that's right.
and
And
the
and I
first one was a prototype. Like it was, we held it together with, literally, I'd go in the basement, we'd run our place every day. We would take, we had 20 guns. We would take 12 that broke that day home.
yes.
We'd go into the basement until 4 in the morning. We would try to figure out, solder back heat sinks and crazy glue stuff back together and bring it back the next morning and charge the batteries and then
Yeah.
do it all again the next
So
day.
see,
Like it was insane.
this is the push for scale too early, because if you are just the location, then you're operationalizing, you're getting your marketing, you're focusing on sort of a couple of core, maybe the entertainment mix, but like the core things. The I think if you are also developing the stuff, right, you've now taken on an entirely additional company, right, which is the company making the entertainment,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and so you're sort of like a whole company with a customer of one. You're one location, and that is not enough to build things for scale, or even build things the first article of any quality, for the most part. Like the from a cold start, and so I think that part is what pushes people to scale faster. They're like, hey, we built this, we got it running, we really need more money to pay the engineers to continue to update it and make it perfect. It's a prototype, people are having to stay up all night soldering things. You can see the pitch, and so now all of
Yeah.
a sudden we get to the second location. That's going to be the cash flow we need to get, to finalize the product and really get us to escape velocity. And 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 it's somewhere in the like 2 to 3 locations, but it's not one. Because one, you're probably, you're probably not paying for that executive team that is or that engineering team, or that really capable marketer that's more than the junior person that you'd have for one location. I think you just, in
Mm.
order to sort of get the first one up, you're sort of overbuilt, for one location.
Yeah, 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 it's good. And the other side of that is, and so you see a lot of family entertainment centers, um, where, I'll use Dave and Buster's as an example now, as one that transcends that. Now it's taken them 40 years to go from like 2 locations to 200 locations, whatever. Um, and now they're investing in building their own, these arenas. The arena, I don't know if you've seen it. It's like this
Yeah, I
immersive
can't wait.
gaming room with touchscreen floors and walls. Hey, let's go to Dallas together and do it. I'm going to be there. I think I'm going to go this summer, if you
Cool.
if you want.
Yeah.
But they have now the ability to kind of invest in their own unique, differentiated products, where which is what you tried to do. So you invented all these unique experiences that you could only do in this location. And you've
Mhm.
talked about the cost of that. The flip side of that is you just buy a bunch of stuff that everybody else has and you put it in a room and you try to differentiate on brand or pricing strategy or cleaner bathrooms or something. And
Yeah,
so like
people have
so
done really.
and one,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, and one of the things you talked about was no redemption, and and you made a conscious choice, which I applaud did at the time and still do, despite how it might have worked out. Because I want to ask you about that. You made a choice to not do redemption games, toy prize games, claw machines, shit like that. What was behind that decision, and how do you feel about that now?
I so much of what I want our micro amusement park to be, we did not get finished yet. And one of the things that I think it is really exciting and really promising, and where this stuff gets really awesome is, that player card having more to it than just your stored value. That you might be able to get a special reward for having played all the games in the building, and then a different reward for having done, everything in the arcade. But that just changed, last week. And so it invalidated your win and you got to come back in order to get back on the board or what, so much experimentation that I wanted to play with that was all sort of digital rewards that don't need a physical piece of plastic to memorialize it. And in fact, get way cooler if it's not a piece of plastic and is a digital thing you can move around and track and increment and whatnot. And so I, the prizing for me always feels sort of like a crutch. Like if it's not fun, well, then we can have a prize there,
Yeah.
and then people want to play it. But if there's no prize, you want to do it because you want to do it, and we really, the other one that was a real important one for us was almost everything was social, very few
Yeah.
single player things. And so we wanted stuff you just literally wanted to do because it was cool and fun and, you were playing with your friends.
You guys were so early in that, what they now call competitive socialization, which I hate. It just rolls off the tongue. Um, but you guys were so early in that, and you use this term that I still use to this day with attribution, shoulder to shoulder play.
Oh.
And now everything in the industry is about that, right? Immersive game box and 501 darts and shuffleboard and axe throwing and all of these things that are about, socializing and playing together in group play.
Yeah.
How are you thinking about that stuff now, and what worked and what didn't work, and how are you feeling about it?
Oh man, I just love social games, parlor games. You talked about innovating in operations and marketing, whatnot. Punchbowl Social crushed it, right? Bunch of simple, games, parlor games, and they made it beautiful and delicious, and they nailed it. And I think a huge thing, my background's engineering. I love computers and electronics and whatnot. We overcomplicated a lot of stuff. There's a bunch of stuff that's some routed out wood that's been nicely polished with some heavy, game pieces, and you're done. And it doesn't need a screen. It doesn't need anything else. A perfect example, we put all this time and effort into this special controller that was basically recreating the game that you can play with an egg on a spoon, and it's like we did all of this work, all this engineering, and in the end, I actually think the egg on the spoon one was still better. I think it's easy to get carried away when really what we're talking about is that shoulder to shoulder and that social. You can do it with not a lot.
Yeah.
Good storytelling, good play, good game mechanics, good layout of the room. Like nice lighting and.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about LA. So LA recently, you shut down and you opened next door.
Yep.
What's the situation? What happened? What lessons have you learned that other people can learn from?
Yeah, we're gonna this next door location we're calling Bit Circus Sideshow. It is it's a smaller location than our micro amusement park. It is, it's more intimate, big barrel vaulted ceiling. It's got some permits that we didn't have, at the micro amusement park. We got live music. We've got, so DJ and dancing. It's going to allow us to experiment with day parts. We've got a lot of nice arcade games, some VR, and we're starting to experiment a lot with augmented reality. And that's the other lesson for me with Dallas and with LA was that size is massive. We were 40,000 square feet. And for something that we want to put across the country that is too big, and requires such a lift to get up and running. And I think about the things that are massively scalable, they're open in weeks, not months, and so this place for us, Sideshow, is an opportunity to sort of experiment in that thing that we can be up and running fast. And hey, we closed down, the micro amusement park in April. We got our opening day for Sideshow is this Saturday.
Wow. Holy
right?
crap.
That is 6 weeks, buddy. And
I can't believe you took time to do this the day before your opening, by the way. So
well,
thank you.
2 days, yeah. But it really is it's going to be, I'm excited for it because we're it's close to the old location. It gives us a laboratory to be able to experiment with this new stuff. And, there were decisions that we made about the micro amusement park, before we ever opened that we were saddled with. There were, the stuff that it was too big in some regards. It was too small in others. I'm excited to frankly put closure to the pain and suffering of COVID and start start new.
Yeah, cool. So what are the talk about the new place then? Talk about the Sideshow. How is it going to be different?
So we've got
small.
So smaller, we'll go later into the night. We're working on, DJ lineups and some special events like that. The augmented reality, our first one is the cocktail shooter, which you're literally, you get it at the bar and you buy a shot. You buy the cocktail shooter, it comes with a shot, you take the shot and then you're shooting, you put on the headset and you actually just hold it to your face, sort of like a Viewmaster as you, with our special controller, are now shooting out, a little shooting gallery. But it's one of a series of augmented reality experiences, a wizard battle we're working on, sort of a walkabout experience. And these things I'm getting really, really pumped about.
And all right, so we'll go into the tech because that's what we both love. So
one other quick thing is this interactive game show that I've been building, which is a bunch of boxes. They all work together within a live host, and up on the screen you have all these teams, up to 100 players simultaneously smashing buttons and controlling their character.
And live, look, I was at Buzz Time for a hot minute and tried to help them, transitioned over from the blue box to tablets. But I tried to get them to adopt a live event, whether it was streamed on the televisions or it was live in person. And I think doing those live, space and time bound events where people come together and do something in real time is really powerful.
Dude, the energy I've probably hosted myself 50 shows now, and the energy is so freaking fun. When you get 20, 50, 100 people all in the same room, and not trivia like on Post-it notes, into a bucket, but everyone's smashing buttons as fast as they possibly can, and then into trivia, and then into a ginormous sort of map maze game, back to trivia, different styles, like the people don't check their phone for an hour, and that is just that, and really how I landed here, I put my back into a holiday game show that people scanned a QR code and they played from their phone, and so they were in the audience live in the building, but they were playing from their phone. And I had a Seattle comic. I had people coming on stage and, putting on ridiculous outfits, doing crazy challenges, all this stuff. But every time they were back playing the game show, I'd look out at the crowd and it was everybody on their phone. And I told them to be on their phone, right? Scan this QR code if I can play the game. But what is more antisocial than someone on their phone? right? It's like it is just a barrier to social interaction. It is a wall to leave me alone, and this was, and part of the challenge, I think this is something that every person in location based can take away from. You are, unless they're like actively sharing a photo of what you guys just did together, like a phone is screwing up your experience, your customer's experience, because the second they pull it out, it is taking their attention away. They just got reminded of their thing they got to do tomorrow. They just got something from their whatever. And it's like, if their phone's in their pocket and they're smiling with their friends, that's the thing they miss the most desperately and need, in a major way. And even if they don't know it. So I desperately wanted no phone, and long story longer, that's where this came from.
Yeah, no, that's such an important takeaway. And that's alive. And so somebody hosts that in the venue, and then I assume it's connected to something going on screens in the venue, so they can see the results of the input.
Yep, exactly. So everybody's usually one of these on a cocktail table, 2 to 4 people per cocktail table. So every table's a team, and then live host is having a ball.
Yeah, amazing. And so you're going to have live trivia. So let's talk about augmented reality. So it sounds like Google Cardboard, right? So are you using like a phone-based, like a Samsung Galaxy Reader, or what are you using hardware-wise?
Quests.
Quest. Okay, interesting. So mixed reality as it's being called now.
Yeah.
And you're taking the strap off and you're just making them hold it up to their face?
Hold it up to their face. Yeah, you don't deal. It's short. It sort of sets the standard that it's open, that it is, short form. You're not screwing up your hair, like that has always been a thing. And we even we're going to experiment a little bit with like, is it at the table, for some of them, is it at the table there, sort of bound to its controller, sort of sitting there on the table, maybe even tethered to the table. And so we're sitting there hanging out, and it's like, all right, Bob, all right, that was a really fun conversation. Should we just shoot some zombies for a second? Okay, go. Sort of like we're sitting at a cocktail Pac-Man, but now the game is the entire building for for a minute, and then we put it back down again.
Which is interesting, because you go back to U-Wink and you had like a touchscreen computer at every table. And so, which cost you a hell of a lot more than a Quest, I guess. The prices come down, which is a good thing.
Speaking of being too early, freaking tablet, the iPad didn't exist then either. We did that with touchscreens from China and custom built enclosures.
The curse of being a visionary, dude.
Dude, it hurts.
So, all right. So the new thing is 2-Bit in LA was this, I think you nailed it. We talked about it. It was a bit under attractioned would be the industry term. Like there was a lot of open space, which you wanted for people to be able to give bar and food and mingle and talk and be social. And so you need space for people to be social. But there was, in that case, it was too much space, too much money to fill it with games. And
we always knew we were going to grow into it. We always planned to grow into it, add more. And in fact, we even had our whole building, the whole front of the building was our offices. We wanted to grow into that ultimately. But, all that stuff is expensive.
Yeah. And so you've got the new place, which is, how big is it? What's the footprint?
6,000 indoors, 6,000 outdoors.
Ooh, outdoors. What's that?
Yeah, big outdoors. And, this was something we experimented a lot in the pandemic, is sort of what's the patio? What's the outdoor solution? So we've been experimenting both outdoor AR and some solutions to make that work in the sun. And we've got kind of some fun innovations that I think will be cool. And then analog games, simple outdoor stuff.
Big Jenga.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my absolute best to have Jenga and cornhole be the bottom of the list. But a lot of other analog games.
Yeah, cool. And so if you were so when you describe this, so the other thing was, it was a high-tech circus, it was a micro amusement park. How are you describing the sideshow?
Yeah, I've been calling it an arcade and nightclub. But at first I was saying a arcade, capital A arcade. It's I think a little too annoying. So I don't know that I have the best right now. It's really a pop-up is I think the right way to think about it. It is a
Yeah.
pop-up. This is an experiment. This is a laboratory. Um,
Are you taking anything from the old location into the new location, attraction wise, or anything
Yep,
like
we
that?
brought all of Two Bits originals. You know, our button wall, the hexacades, the Super Thunder Blocks. We brought all of those original arcade games. One of the Midway games. I've got all of the story rooms are in storage, and we brought some VR.
Yeah, cool. So let's talk about VR. You were an early adopter of VR. You went in hard and heavy with it. What's your take on virtual reality now in LBE, and what do you like and what don't you like?
You know, I think the amount of infrastructure, you know, the big question for me is like, what's the minimum viable atoms? You know, for a great experience, and you know, there's something to be said. You know, like so much of the gear has changed since we first opened, you know, started to design the micro amusement park in 2016 and 17. You know, I mean, the Vive 2 needed a massive computer with huge heat sinks and all this other stuff, you know, and so you were tethered, and it was like this whole set of requirements that are just not true anymore. And so you know, that part I'm really pumped to sort of see the experimentations be able to happen with you know, these all-in-one headsets. I think there's
Yeah,
room, so much new stuff. So that part is really exciting to me. I do think that, you know, what the physical attractions did though was be a permanent thing, right? Something that people can look up to and look across the room and make a destination across the family entertainment center. You know, I mean, they are a finished attraction, which is wonderful. I think what is amazing, you know, the stuff that we saw that just worked and didn't need a lot of help, you know, but those sort of all-in-one VR units that you could put on the floor, you know, the headsets would retract themselves or whatever that. So, you know, that stuff was a little finicky, but just a unit, a VR unit without any staff that you can move around like an arcade cabinet is so much more useful and portable than you know, some of this big stuff that is. I just don't know how much we need, you know, the heavy infrastructure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, how far do you think? So I've been thinking a lot about this concept. You know, the standalone headsets now are super reliable, super easy. I was just in Europe and did a thing where at Camp Nou, which is the football stadium for Barcelona, the big team, and they have a big museum there. It's one of the top tourist attractions in Barcelona.
Cool.
And they have this thing where you just put on a headset and you walk through. It's like a 10-minute walkthrough experience where you're in the locker room and they miniaturize you and they put you on the field and this player comes and kicks a football over your head and it's like, holy shit, like, you know, then you put the headset off and you're done. And there's like two attendants running this thing where there's 15, 20, 30 people at a time just walking through this tracked space. It's literally a virtual exhibit, and we did a bunch of those. And so,
Awesome.
how far are we away from the virtual amusement park where literally there's a big tract space and you put on a headset and you can go from walkabout mini golf to shooting zombies to, you know, going and getting a cocktail shooter and whatever. Like, I know you're thinking about this. You have to be
Yes,
thinking
man.
about this. Like,
I want it so badly. The downloadable theme park. The downloadable theme park. You know, the downloadable theme park. That
I
is,
love that idea.
and that theme, you know, and again, for me, the question is minimum viable atoms. You know,
Yeah,
what are the amount of atoms that make this truly magical? Because, you know, AR and VR are, you know, they're fine in your living room, but they do get properly mind bending when you're on a hyperdeck and there's wind in your face and the you know, the platform is moving with what your eyes are seeing. That is awesome. And you know, people will leave the house to do that because it really truly is special and different from what they can get at home. And so what's the version of that in this new era that we're talking about that has that you know, is that downloadable theme park solution? There's still some amount of physical atoms involved. to bring that extra magic. And I also think that 100% it's not all on the headset, right? You come out of the headset and now we get to hang out and talk and shoot the shit about what happened. And you recommended to me Evo in Vegas. And I really enjoyed that. And they had like the beautiful area in the front, and then you could go into the relatively sort of unthemed warehouse area, which is where you started to really be completely virtualized. But the front area had games and food and beverage, and it was a real, really felt like the VR part was a big stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I want that downloadable theme park, and I think we're finally getting closer to the stuff that would make it possible.
How important is the vibration, the floor moving, the wind, the heat? Like is that because again, those are all bits, or those are all atoms, right? And
Those are all
so
Yeah, and if you're talking about movement, those are like, now start to be all the safety concerns, and I mean, it's like there's so many, the rabbit hole. You peel the onion, it starts to get so complicated. But I think that stuff's important. I do think, and I think the social, multiple people doing it at the same time. Then I'd add, the audio of your friends, like that immersion is really powerful. I know that's Bob over there. That's his mannerisms. And I can hear you in my ears. We're working together. I feel like that is so important. And then you start to add in the other senses, but even just being able to reach out and have the physical haptics match. And,
we should be days away from the ability to do, I think Spaces did it early with their Terminator thing, where they scanned your face and they put it on your Terminator avatar. And it was the face didn't move. It was the ultimate. It wasn't uncanny valley. It was so far to the left of that. It was comical.
Yeah.
But you could shoot your friend's face off and then it would grow back, which was kind of cool. But we should be there today. Like, you should be able to do that right now. And with voice, with AI and even the face tracking that's coming on the next version of headsets, I'm sure we're going to see face tracking on every headset coming out after Apple set the bar.
Well, and Sandbox has done a great job of giving you a fused video after the fact. Here's
great job.
And here's a wonderful shareable thing that puts you in the world. You get your real life highlight moments, and now you've got something you can share with friends, which is really, I think, the perfect match of being able to sort of have the takeaway and help offset your marketing.
Yeah. What's missing then? So you've been thinking about it. You want this. What are we missing to be able to actually bring that downloadable theme park, which I'm totally stealing from you, licensing with attribution? What's missing to be able to bring that to life right now?
I mean, for us, we're just time and money.
I mean, in the tech stack, in the stack that you need to bring that, assuming you had time and money to do it. Do you think the tech's there yet, or do you think we're a generation away? And if so, what are we missing?
Yeah, I think the modular. I still don't know what the stuff is that's outside the headset. Like, I keep imagining, I keep thinking of like a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino with a whole set of objects, but like the object that I can place over there and it's going to take a picture, the object that I can place over there and it's a little sound maker and it's going to make animal noises, or I love your walk through Barcelona experience. What's that for a zoo, where you're walking around and you're in a headset capturing virtual animals and you're taking photos of them and you got to capture all the ones on your bingo card. That stuff, what's the amount of physical things and what do those physical things look like that help to make this special and, beyond something that I would do in my living room. And so make it special because my friends are involved and it's now social. Make it special because I got a great video afterwards and it's a cool fused experience and, whatnot. Make it special because, it was that much more magical because of the haptic effects and whatnot. I think those are the pieces for me. The missing elements is like, what are the number and quantity of those that make it really awesome. And when it goes time to do it, like, do we have to build them from scratch, or has somebody already done that?
Yeah, and then you're in square one, which is you're now a developer and an amusement and a downloadable theme park operator, and you have one location, and
Yeah.
so and this is the thing, look, we should definitely talk offline because I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this and trying to figure out the go-to-market and the ecosystem. What's the ecosystem for this market that allows us to recruit developers and operators and solution providers to come together to create a scaled opportunity? Because you can't just build this shit for one location and pull it off and make it amazing. And so I feel like the pieces of the puzzle are there, and we're on the verge of this real virtual family entertainment center, theme park, amusement park, whatever, and probably different levels of it, right? Where you can have the one that goes in 6,000 square feet or 8,000 square feet, and it doesn't have all the haptics and stuff, and then you have the big one in the big cities that has the vibrating floor and the wind and the shit that makes it more of a theme park. Yeah.
Yeah, the full motion platforms, the drift trike racetrack, yes, please.
Yeah. Look, I did. It was, and it's funny. It's not funny. It's tragic that, like, I think it was 2018. I was in Paris, and I don't know if you know the guys from Backlight in France. They created this game called
the Submarine.
Did you ever play Toyland?
I just did their Submarine, but the Submarine I loved it.
So the Toyland is still my favorite location-based VR experience, and it had D-box chairs, and you sit in a D-box chair, and then you're in a helicopter, and the helicopter crash lands, and you get out of the chair, and now you have a gun, and you're going through a free roam, and it's all toys and sprite animation, so it's joyous and wonderful art direction, and then a Jeep pulls up, and you get back in the chair, but now it's a Jeep, and you're riding through this crazy Jeep ride, and then you get back out, and you're in a house, and you have to get rid of the ghosts in the house, and the toys are coming to life, and then they miniaturize you, and then you're on a train, and it was this multimodal back and forth experience between free roam and chairs, and it was only 5 players could do it, or 6 players, because of tracking issues and backpacks, and so the cost per player didn't spec out, and so it didn't scale. But today it feels like all that stuff's getting so much more affordable. I want to see more stuff like that.
Yeah, that sounds so cool what you just described. I mean, and that's that and your walk through Barcelona experience, I think, are 2 good examples of this next phase that could be so immersive and special. And I think the other piece to long answer to your sort of what else is needed is not, I think, software that's not just entertainment in this context, is we really explored a lot around multi-day part. And if you've got people partying there nights and maybe families there in the middle of the day on the weekend, what's the Monday through Friday 9 to 5 slot? And we've got a nonprofit foundation that we've been supporting for almost a decade now. And we got to the point where we were running students to be able to come through there in what was a little bit of a learning experience. They do a version of the game show that was all STEM and STEAM, my button box game show. They do a hands-on maker activity, sort of making their own game, and then they get open play games for a while. And they do that for 2 hours and bus in. What's the version for corporates where they get to come and they're learning, some new approach to something, or it's a mindfulness experience, or it's I think one of the things that all of our industry would benefit from is an entire additional day part of revenue, for some other thing. And
there was a ton of at the VR Arcade Summit, which we're repositioning as the VR Attraction Summit. First public announcement right here.
Cool.
Because there was so much interest in things like you talked about, education programs and virtual tourism and health and wellness, and there's all of this interest from the industry saying, yeah, we've got this, we see the possibility, you've got this headset. Why does it have to just be shooting things?
Yeah,
what more can we do with it?
And imagine, for the architecture studio who, they might have headsets at home and they've got the same problem that we've got with entertainment. They want it to be more immersive. They want it to be social. They want to be able to show their clients through it. The more that the solution gave them ways to be able to come out and be involved, and pay for the privilege, they'd be psyched, you know,
Yeah.
and the venues would be psyched. You all of a sudden you've got, you know, people there when you would have been closed otherwise. And so
Yeah.
I think both for corporate, you know, verticals and for learning K through college, there's a and retraining, you know, people's continuing education. You know, there's a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 solution that would help all of our businesses.
Yeah, definitely. So, Two-Bit Circus Sideshow opens on
June
Saturday, June
June 1st.
1st.
Saturday, June 1st, this Saturday, and then every day, Thursday to Monday. We're closed Tuesday and Wednesday right now, but Thursday to Monday, come for some games, game show, other fun.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure I'll be back in LA on the July 4th. So I don't know if you're doing an event or anything, but I'd love to drop in and see you guys. Are you in LA now? Are you back in LA for a while or what?
Split in time, so I'll be down there a lot in June. I fly down there in a couple days.
Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully, I do have one last thing I want to say. So I've been carrying this thing around with me now for freaking 2 years, waiting for a chance to give it to you, and I just gave up and fuck. So one of the things I like to do is I like to recognize people that are really pushing the envelopes of location-based virtual reality and and experimenting and showing what's possible. And I can't think of anybody who's done more of that than you have. And so I have this little thing. It's
Oh,
called the VR Bobble Award.
yes, dude, that is
And
so awesome.
this might be in the Guinness Book of Records as the most traveled award ever because it's been flying around the world with me for a couple of years, and I'm finally this is the last one of this model that I've been holding on to for you.
Oh,
And so Brent Bushnell, you are the proud recipient. You should
oh.
be of a VR Bobble Award.
Dude, you're the man. I am very honored. That means so much coming from you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot wait. And I know exactly on my desk where it's going.
So, dude, thank you so much for everything you do, for continuing to be so positive and optimistic and pushing the envelope and attempting to show people what's possible in our industry. I'm your biggest fan and look forward to seeing this next chapter of your inventions.
Oh man, thank you so much, Bob, for everything, for organizing this, for being such a light in the community, and frankly telling us how to, sharing with us how to do it. This is there's no roadmap, and it's
There
a
is no roadmap.
weird time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll try to continue to be the cartographer.
Yes.
Um, And so just stay right there for a second, Brent. That's half of me. Wait, how do we do that? That's it for this edition of the Being Virtual Show. Stay tuned for more. You can see past episodes and sign up for updates at beingvirtual.tv. I am Bob Cooney, but you knew that, and we'll see you next time.